Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. I'm here once again with the flute of positivity. And today I want to talk about how to make a decision on what you're going to main in Battle for Azeroth, as this is a bit of a battle that I'm going through myself, trying to pick what I want to play, what I'm interested in, what I think will give me the most opportunity. So I'm going to go through my thought process for selecting a main to help myself, and then maybe it'll also apply and help you decide on picking a main. Because first of all, Battle for Azeroth, as most expansions when they first release, is not very alt friendly. And it is likely that you will be dedicating yourself to a class and, in maybe a lot of cases, even one spec for an extended period of time until the game starts to introduce more alt friendly features, as expansions tend to do. So I would say that it's very important to pick something that you really want to play, and that's going to depend on what kind of player you are. So if you're a player who wants to do a lot of content, if you want to raid, if you want to Mythic Plus, if you want to arena, battleground, if you're looking for the most amount of opportunity, I'm going to say that first of all, let's break it down into the role. You're going to want to be a healer. A healer is needed in every single category of the game, period. So you will have a spot guaranteed. You'll find looking for groups faster. You'll make friends faster. But I don't know, it's not a lot. Not everybody wants to heal. Even myself, sometimes I get frustrated or bored with it, so I kind of want to put it up on the mantle. But if you're looking for purely opportunity, if you just want to play the game, you're going to want to play a healer, and you'll get access to all of that content quite easily. Uh, and then what you can think long term is when the game does start to become more alt friendly, now that you've made friends, because it's going to be easier to make friends as a healer than any other role because it's just higher demand, you'll be able to try other things out and be more successful because you'll have the friends that you built up from playing with as a healer, and that maybe one of them wants to try a healer instead moving into the future. So picking a healer will give you the most opportunity. Now, as far as what healer you should play, I myself have been playing like every healer except Mistweaver, really, in towards the end of Legion, and now moving into Battle for Azeroth, testing them out. My personal favorite is Discipline Priest. That's coming from someone that's normally a Resto Druid main. Discipline Priest brings a lot of quirkiness to the game that some of the other healers don't bring, and as well as consistency. You do a lot of damage, you've got good utility, good support, you got a buff back to the game. I really love buff management. And generally, it's, I think, been improved over the Legion variant, and with the new Honor Talent bucket system, you have a lot more variety in sort of the play style that you want to execute. And because stats matter and gear matters, trinkets matter, you can customize it and really build yourself quite interestingly overall. So Discipline Priest is one of my top contenders simply for that fact alone. But moving back to more of the kind of my thought process of picking what you want to pick. So I already said, if you want opportunity, you're going to want to play a healer, right? Now, if you're somebody who is interested in strictly player versus environment, you're probably going to want to go for the tank role because they're going to be more in demand than healer, even still. But tank is not as prominent in PvP, at least not arena. You could definitely find some places as like a flag carrier or target caller in battlegrounds, but in terms of arena, you're not really going to have a lot of success. I would say you definitely need to find people that want to play with that play style. So if you're purely looking at opportunity, it might be more difficult for you to find opportunity in that. It's not impossible, but it would probably be less likely just due to the stigma of tanks and how they play in arena, and generally people's thinking about them. So I wouldn't suggest it in that case. But if you're interested in PvE, then picking a tank is going to be really good for you. Obviously, if you're interested in playing competitively, we saw in Legion Blood Death Knight kind of just smash every other tank out of the water in terms of Mythic Plus, which I'm hoping changes in Battle for Azeroth. There hasn't really been enough testing for me to say whether or not that has changed. However, having Death Grip is going to be really good in Mythic Plus because you can just reposition mobs, use area of effect stuns, and power down lots of trash pulls really fast. And purely on that fact, Blood Death Knight will likely be a very strong tank. So if you're looking in terms of purely competitiveness, tank is, I would say, is going to be your Blood Death Knight. But other options, I believe they're changing block value in the way that it works for warriors, prop warriors, and prop paladins. So there may be some likelihood there that they end up being competitive. And I gotta say, aesthetically, I enjoy prop warrior and prop paladin the most. I don't know what it is. Just give me a shield and give me something to swing, and that makes me feel good as a tank for whatever reason aesthetically. So if you're one of those players, they are going to be receiving quite a few changes to the way that they interact, and they could possibly be as competitive as Blood Death Knight. But then moving in forward to the last one, if you just really want to play a spec and it's a DPS role, right, you're going to be reducing your opportunity by quite a lot just because DPS is not in demand. Go figure. It's really fun to press your buttons and see a lot of big numbers on the screen. It's easier to level. There's a lot of things that get streamlined when you're a DPS player. So you're not going to be in as much demand, which means, one, you're going to have to be of higher quality than a lot of other players to get into groups, or at least competitive groups, because you're going to get judged a lot more because there's just more supply available. So you're going to want to make sure that you're reading up on your guides, making sure that you're playing really well. You also might want to make sure that you're generally polite to strangers. Obviously, if you've played with your friends and you joke around and you just kind of trash talk with each other, that's one thing. But if you're trying to make new friends and kind of progress forward, I would suggest maybe not starting out that way unless you've kind of felt it out. Obviously, that's going to depend on every single subjective situation, but you just want to make sure that you're performing your best and you're generally, I would say, polite to new players, and that'll allow you to establish a group of friends and then continue playing with them, which will then increase your opportunity to enjoy the most out of the game. So from my point of view, in terms of specialization reworks, class reworks, how do the classes feel now with more customization? How do they feel with the new honor talent system or new talents in general? How do they feel having lost their artifact? You know, what kind of classes I'm going through in my mind. So I'm somebody who wants high opportunity. I want to be useful to as many people as possible so that I can get in as many groups as possible and be playing the game as much as possible. Call me insane. So I'm going with the healer role, right? So I've already broken it down into that. I want to raid, I want to Mythic Plus, and I want to PvP in Arena. So a healer role is going to allow me to play the most. Might not be my ultimate preference choice. I would enjoy playing Balanced Druid, but in terms of my opportunity, it's gonna go down, especially if Balanced Druid is not seen as strong in the competitive scene. That will lower my opportunity even in greater. So now that I've reduced it down to I want to be a healer and have the most opportunity amongst the most amount of content, I've been bouncing mostly between, well, actually I've been considering all of the healers, because at the end of Legion, I've been pushing to try and get Gladiator on all of them except Mistweaver, because for whatever reason I'm just really terrible at it and I don't find it interesting enough to figure out how it works. The Way of the Crane playstyle, kind of you hit and then run and hit and run, has never been my preference in terms of PvP combat. I like sustained pressure, always staying in the fight, maintaining my global cooldowns as effectively as possible. Rather than this kind of like go in there, it's really intense for 10 seconds, then you're just trying to do nothing. Just kind of, regardless, that's my preference. But I've been enjoying Paladin, Shaman, Discipline, and Resto Druid. I haven't been touching a lot of Holy Priest either, but I don't mind it. And I've been playing a different healer basically every single day. It's like I log on, some of my friends want me to play a Druid, some of my friends want me to play a Shaman, then whatever. And it's actually a bit of a breath of fresh air to switch between them because they all play so differently. Like you've been watching this video, my Shaman is really aggressive and you just run people down, which is the complete opposite of my Druid, which is much more passive oriented and focused on defense and extending a game. And then you've got Discipline Priest that's kind of somewhere in between, and Holy Paladin also that's a little bit somewhere in between. So for someone like myself, if the game is not going to be alt friendly at the start, and I'm kind of assuming that it won't be, I don't want to play a healer that's going to limit me to one play style, simply because I'm going to get bored. So, assuming that Resto Druid plays the same way it does in Legion, it's likely to be a defensive oriented playstyle, where you're being very passive, staying back, not engaging a lot. And I've played a lot of Resto Druid like that, and I'm frankly not interested in continuing that playstyle anymore. I've been liking the aggressive playstyle of Shaman. But at the same time, I don't want to be pigeonholing myself. So if Shaman is the kind of purge aggressive bully healer like it is in Legion moving into Battle of Azeroth, I'm not gonna risk it on that one. I'm gonna put that off to the side. So now I've narrowed myself down to Holy Paladin and Discipline Priest. Now for me, I'm kind of one of those people that situation doesn't go my way. I usually tend to blame lag. Whether or not it actually is lag or not, I don't know for sure. But melee, I tend to get frustrated on. They get crowd controlled a lot and rooted a lot. And Holy Paladin's kind of a melee healer with Avenging Crusader going to a normal talent, and you can kind of build that into your whole rotation. So you're going to be doing a lot of swinging of your sword. And that can kind of be frustrating because you compromise your position to do that and get crowd controlled, and it's irritable, right? So for me, that's not my playstyle. I don't really want to get into people's faces. I don't want to have to blame lag when I'm getting crowd controlled, making excuses for myself. So what's left? I've got Disciplined Priest and Holy Priest. I'd say Holy Priest is very similar to Resto Druid, so I'm going to leave it in that category. It's very defensive, sit back, heal, get your stuns rolling. But then we go to Disciplined Priest, where it's much like Paladin, you're doing damage, but you can do it from ranged, so you don't have to compromise your positioning at all times, but you can get aggressive with Purge and Fear. It's got good micromanagement with Solace. I really love Solace for mana management on a healer. It just does decent damage. You got to make sure you're pressing it as much as possible so you get as much mana as possible, and you can really outperform other priests with it. And it's a very simple thing. It's just one simple thing, but it adds so much to my enjoyment of the spec. And in terms of my long-term investment, because I think it's unlikely that we'll see a lot of alting for a while in BFA as we've seen in previous expansions, Disciplined Priest just lets me do everything. I'm going to have the highest opportunity. I can heal in raids, I can heal in Mythic Plus, and then in PvP, I can switch between playstyles of offense, defense, passiveness, like all-out aggression. It just leaves me with the most options on the table. So I'm likely to be maining Disciplined Priest moving into Battle for Azeroth. I've kind of concluded that. Even though I've invested a lot of time on Druid, at the same time, just kind of getting bored of it, just kind of getting old, and I feel like its playstyle is going to be very similar, which means it's going to be limited, and I just want to kind of branch out more, and because Disciplined Priest has so many more options in its playstyle and opportunity as a healer, it's going to be a better fit for me, I think, overall, moving into Battle for Azeroth. Now, obviously, you might be different. If you're just a die-hard DPS player, go for it. I will say, though, in terms of your opportunity, you're going to have to outperform players, unless, of course, you're the solo player who just, you want to do world quests and queuing, just solo play. Then you can go and do your stuff. But if you want to like get competitive, make a group of friends, advance in the game, and pursue goals, you're really going to have to perform to like another level as a DPS player, because the supply is just so much that people will pick out of more players, and you might not get picked. So just take that with a grain of salt. Obviously, I know a lot of people out there that want to be DPS players, but that is somewhat of the downside. I would recommend, if you're a new player or returning or new player into Battle for Azeroth, you really just want to get grinding, and start working and getting better at the game, that you pick a healer. And if you're a PvE player, pick a tank. Tank is also like a very busy role, though, because you're responsible for everything. Like you're one of 2 out of 20, I think, is what the current raid size is. You can kind of change it around, but you're pretty important at that point. I can't do math there, but I think that's like, I don't even want to try in terms of percentage. Very small percentage. So you've got a lot of responsibility at the tank. So just take aware of that. Same thing as a healer in PvP. You've also got a lot of responsibility because you're limited. So I would say study up. I'm going to be releasing videos from the Battle for Azeroth beta as I'm playing through all the different specs and classes. I'm going to try and get my hands on as many of them as I can, so that you guys at home can see which ones you like from my point of view. And of course, take it, it's my opinion, right? So you don't have to agree with it, obviously, and I appreciate the comment in the last video that suggested I make this video. If you have any comments or ideas for what kind of classes or specs that you want to play in the next expansion, leave them in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all of the support. I'm going to try to be, a good YouTuber, try and get you guys a lot of content, or as much as I can, and so I really appreciate any support that's possible. So thank you for watching this video. I hope that it was insightful.